Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Rick Flag. Played by Joel Kinnaman, Rick Flag was in the 2016 Suicide Squad film, directed by David Ayer, and it wasn't received well by the public, so much so that fans have been petitioning for a release of the hashtag Ayer cut. But that's not gonna happen, I don't think. But we do get another shot with our loved characters. This time around, Rick Flag looks even more badass. Rick Flag is an elite soldier and government agent who works for Task Force X. So like we see in the film adaptation, Rick is the leader of the first Suicide Squad. Yes, there are more than one, which I'll get into later. Amanda Waller enlisted him when she created the Suicide Squad, which is a task force made of supervillains who take on these high-risk missions in order to get parole, reduce sentences, freedom, something glorious, something to look forward to use their abilities in a good way, or some kind of good way. He made his first comic book debut in The Brave and the Bold issue 25, titled The Three Waves of Doom. And we're looking forward to seeing James Gunn version of him come August 4th. The third wave of Doom sounds familiar up here in Canada, hence why I'm in my apartment. And before we continue with some other dangerous Suicide Squad members, guys, that like button needs some love right now. You can feel it, I don't know, it's right there, it wants a little. So if you want to go ahead and click that, it helps our studio out quite a bit. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's get right back into this list. I don't want to waste too much of your time. Number 9, Bloodsport. Idris Elba is making the jump from a major Marvel character to a major Superman villain. That's right, Bloodsport. He made his first comic book debut back in Superman Volume 2, Issue 14, and the first Bloodsport, there's of course more than one, that's how these things go, classic comic book villains, but the first one was Robert Dubois. Robert got drafted as a young man, but instead fled to Canada, and his brother had to take his place instead. Now his brother Mickey ended up losing his arm and legs when he got drafted, so Robert was a little messed up after carrying that guilt with him. So much so that he spent the next 12 years going back and forth between psychiatric hospitals. That is until Lex Luthor found him and used him as a way to take down Superman. He gave Robert this device that could teleport any weapon to him, and one of them of course being a gun that fires needles of kryptonite. So they used his guilt and made him into one of the most feared members. Whatever version of this character we get in the James Gunn film, I'm sure it will be a blast. Pun intended. Number 8, King Shark.
And?
Yes, that is your hand. Very good.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to miss that guy in the trailer because, you know, he's a shark. We have a shark now. Great. Who's this shark guy? What's going on? Is it Left Shark? Well, he made his comic book debut back in Superboy Volume 4. He was born in Hawaii and he's a humanoid shark, which I probably didn't need to point out, but his father is the king of all sharks, literally referred to as the shark god. So he was responsible for a few missing persons case, of course, being a hungry shark living in Hawaii and all, and it took a combination of heavy weaponry and sheer luck just to bring him in. Sam Makoa was the one who had to bring him in as well. What a unlucky shift. And several officers were actually taken out during this, so it was quite a mess. Now, as far as his origins go, for the Suicide Squad movie, they could go either way, because his sharkness is rumored to come from a variety of sources. He says his dad is a shark god, but others have said he's just a wild man, which is a race of humanoid animals, and the government thinks he's just a savage mutation from an experiment gone wrong. Either way, he's kind of cute and he's a shark, so I love him. Number 7, Parasite. Rudolph Rudy Jones. He made his first appearance in Firestorm Volume 2, Issue 58, and he started off as a janitor at the Pittsburgh branch of Star Labs, but like anything else that happens at Star Labs, his life was soon changed forever because there was an accident. Well, not really an accident, but while nobody was around, Darkseid turned Rudy into this new version of the Parasite. See, he had existed before Crisis on Infinite Earths, but then that's when Maxwell Jensen was Parasite, so Darkseid controlled him, made him open a waste container, and then he was exposed to this radiation that turned him into this new green skin, well, parasite, of course. So now Rudy has the ability to absorb all the life out of others, leaving just a skeleton sitting there behind. How gross would that be to find on a bus? Now his own body constantly needs to consume more and more or else he won't be able to survive. Hungry, hungry parasite, what a menace. Number 6, Bronze Tiger. Ben Turner is one of the best when it comes to martial arts. He actually is the best. He studied with Richard Dragon under the O-Sensei, but was later brainwashed by the League of Assassins. So we have a great fighter, and then just like that, we have a well-trained fighter on their team. Awesome, that was sick. What's the point of that? He's one of the coolest members because he doesn't have powers, which is amazing, and I had to include him in this list. He's just that good at fighting. He has quick reflexes, and he's mastered pretty much every style of fighting. Be it boxing, jiu-jitsu, karate, Muay Thai, taekwondo, you name it, he can break your arms in so many ways. I think that's a better way of putting it. His chi manipulation ability certainly does come in handy though. He uses this to enhance his concentration and heal quicker. In Suicide Squad issue 7, Bronze Tiger is actually able to defeat the speedster Bolshoi. So no powers, but he can still take out a speedster. That's pretty impressive. Number 5, Windfall. Wendy Jones, a former member of the Masters of Disaster, made her DC debut back in Batman in The Outsiders issue 9. Now, she got her powers originally after her mother let her company perform DNA experiments on Wendy and her sister Becky. It was so awful what they went through that Becky actually took out her own mother later in life because of this. She was not happy and she carried a lot of guilt. So her and her sister were once part of the Masters of Disaster, but while Wendy was in school later on, these frat guys assaulted her, to say the least, just awful human beings, and one of those jerks' father was the local district attorney, and he refused to make a case for her when she reported it because of her past as a supervillain. Although his own son is a piece of shit monster. For sure, that makes sense, good logic. Now the college actually kicked Wendy out for this whole scandal, so Wendy returned later to the college and got some good old-fashioned revenge, suffocating that same fraternity by removing the air from their house. So after she was put in Belle Reve Penitentiary, then that's when Amanda recruited her for the Suicide Squad. Number 4, Count Vertigo. The villain that makes you puke. Werner Vertigo made his first debut in World's Finest issue 251, and he comes from the Vladivan royal family. And like his name gives away, his superpower is pretty unique and kind of gross. He makes his enemies disoriented, okay? So he started off by going against Black Canary and Green Arrow, but eventually he made his way to the Suicide Squad. Now, his initial plan before the Suicide Squad was quite simple. He went to Star City to steal back some jewels that his parents had sold when they escaped to England after the war. So he was born with an inner ear problem that affected his balance. So he had a device that helped out planted in the right side of his temple. Now, after messing around with the device, which is something you don't do with any device near your temple, he realized that he had the ability to distort others' perception. Now, it was so bad that they couldn't tell which way was up or down. So he ended up on the naughty list, of course, but he accepted an offer to join the Suicide Squad in order to get his prison sentence reduced. Number 3, Deadshot. Played by the Fresh Prince himself, Will Smith, in the other Suicide Squad movie, Deadshot, aka Floyd Lawton, made his first comic book debut in Batman issue 59. His origin stories are pretty dark, okay? So his parents were both wealthy and they idolized his older brother Edward a lot. Now his father was unfaithful, so his mother actually asked her 2 sons to take him out. That's terrible. So Edward locked Floyd in the boathouse because Floyd wanted to go and at least warn his father, tell him what was going on. So Floyd broke out and he grabbed a hunting rifle where he climbed a tree and saw that his brother had already shot his father. He wasn't dead, but he was paralyzed after the first shot. But then when Edward was preparing to take another shot to end him, Floyd aimed his rifle and shot at him. Now, Floyd meant to disarm him. He meant to, but the branch that he was on had snapped at the last second, so that bullet actually went through the middle of his eyes, which dished out a lot more damage than he intended to. So he took out the brother he loved to protect the father that he hated. That sounds just like a DC villain, if you ask me. So after that point, he was trained by David Kane to become the professional assassin we now know as Deadshot. Number 2, Enchantress, aka June Moon. She made her first debut back in Strange Adventures issue 187 back in 1966, where right at the top it says, "Meet the switcheroo witcheroo, the Enchantress." Now it sounds fun, but she's actually a nightmare. She of course is a member of the Suicide Squad, and Cara Delevingne played her in the first movie. But in the comics, her origins are pretty tragic. See, June Moon was a freelance artist who was dating this guy named Alan Dell. Dell invited her out one evening to a party at the haunted Terror Castle, which sounds like a good time for sure. But while she was there, she fell into a chamber with this being named Zamor, which granted her witch powers. So now every time she says the name Enchantress, she changes into a green-eyed, powerful Enchantress. The downside is whenever June uses these Enchantress abilities and creates magic too quickly, her personality becomes volatile and evil, which explains how she dips into the villain role. And finally, number 1, Amanda Waller. I have to cap this list off with the boss lady herself. She made her debut in DC Comics with Legends issue 1, and she was a powerful political figure who has been in many law enforcement agencies. They referred to her as the Wall because of how aggressive and stubborn she is. She rebuilt Task Force X with Rick Flag assigned to work under her, who I mentioned at the beginning of this list. And eventually she revived the Suicide Squad under her own direction. She's a great character. I mean, Suicide Squad issue 10 was titled Up Against the Wall. It is is a fan favorite with her. Many fans have pointed out that this was the issue where we had the biggest change of pace, and it stepped it up for the Suicide Squad quite a bit. It's his epic story that puts the Dark Knight himself against Amanda Waller. So in this issue, Batman discovers the existence of the Suicide Squad, and his next step of action is to threaten Amanda and say that he's gonna blow the whistle on the whole operation, but Amanda doesn't handle that offer too well because, well, she's the Wall. She explains back to Batman that if he does this, she will use everything in her power to find out who he is and expose him. See, because he used his Matches Malone cover, he wasn't wearing gloves. So when he first investigated Belrave Penitentiary, no gloves means fingerprints. So that threat is not a bad threat at all, Amanda Waller. No powers and you're calling the shots. You're number 1 in my books.
Number 10, ARROWVERSE. Similar to the comics, CW's ARROWVERSE has also had their own version of the Suicide Squad team. This version was as equally dark as the comic book version, though not quite as twisted. Tara Strong did the voice for the Harley we saw locked up in the show, but was not the actress that we briefly saw in those shots. This team used to be led by Amanda Waller and featured DEADSHOT, Shrapnel, and Bronze Tiger. No Harley. However, leadership was later taken over by Oliver Queen's partner, John Diggle, and his wife, Lila Michaels, aka Harbinger, with the roster also being changed to feature Jericho, Cupid, and China White. Number 9, Blackest Day. We don't really get to see this version of the Suicide Squad, alas. We just get to hear instead about their tragic fate. In the DC House of Horror comic special, we get a collection of horror stories set in the DC world, and what we can safely assume are alternate spooky universes. Ooh. One story even features an alternate version of famed squad member Harley Quinn, where she is a ghost who haunts a man and drives him insane, making him kill tons of people, and all the while teasing him. Typical Harley. In the story Blackest Day, a zombie apocalypse has overrun the world, and Harley Quinn and all of the other members of Amanda Waller's Suicide Squad are confirmed dead by John Constantine, who sends a communique to the Justice League Watchtower before himself being overrun by zombies. It turns out that the Justice League themselves have already been overrun, with Flash infecting them with the virus out on the Watchtower. Number 8, Deceased Hope at World's End. While this series is a little more optimistic than most compared to some of the other DC stuff, it features 2 surviving members of the Suicide Squad, the new Suicide Squad, Aerie and Wink. In this alternate universe, the 2 characters are still alive but are faced with the semi-zombie apocalypse whose infection has reached everywhere via the life equation. This is one of those times when flight powers and functional wings like Aerie's really do come in more handy, even though I usually rag on that ability sometimes. Especially when you have all those unliving just trudging around down there on the ground. Unfortunately, while Aerie and Wink continue to stay safe while searching for Nightshade and Hive in issue number 4 of Hope at World's End, the pair run into an infected Black Adam, who can also fly, of course, and all of the infected population of Kahndaq. Number 7, Suicide Squad Black. This version of the team is still from Prime Earth but features a new roster of villains / anti-heroes, combined with some familiar faces. The team was once again led by Amanda Waller and featured characters that she forced into action, like the main squad. The members throughout consisted of El Diablo, Azucar, Gentleman Ghost, Juniper, Tiamat, Wither, Clarion the Witch Boy, and Enchantress. A lot of mystical and magical characters on this team. This alternate version of the team referred to themselves as Suicide Squad Black, and appeared in their own limited series titled Suicide Squad Black Files. Number 6, David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Ayer's version of the Suicide Squad in the DCEU featured many familiar and recurring faces when it comes to the squad's members. Led by Amanda Waller, the team featured Harley Quinn, DEADSHOT, Enchantress, El Diablo, Captain Boomerang, and Katana. Not only was the film dark when it came to exploring the origins of many of these characters, their struggles, and all they had suffered through to become the villains they were today, but it was also dark because of the fact that Enchantress almost succeeded in kind of taking over the world. In the end, the Suicide Squad did manage to save the day, but had to eliminate Enchantress and the innocent June Moon, whom she possesses. Number 5, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Gunn's The Suicide Squad will actually be a soft reboot of the former team. His team and his feel of the Suicide Squad will likely be a lot different than Ayers, although it still seems to have plenty of that Suicide Squad chaos that most fans enjoy. This time around, the team has a lot more members, reminding us once again of why exactly the team is referred to as the Suicide Squad, despite having the official government name of Task Force X. Because at any point, anyone can die. This team is sent on only the toughest missions, referred to as suicide missions, because for many they would be considered impossible. You can expect there will be more violence, explosions, and deaths in comparison to the first film. Considering that many of the members of the squad won't make it out alive, this film is likely to be a much darker take on the Suicide Squad when it comes to cinematics. Currently, the team roster includes Harley Quinn, Bloodsport, Peacemaker, The Thinker, Captain Boomerang, Blackguard, Polka Dot Man, Savant, King Shark, Weasel, Javelin, Ratcatcher 2, Soul Soria, TDK, and Mongol. Woo! With likely even more surprise members awaiting to be revealed throughout the duration of the film. Number 4. Telltale games. In the Telltale Batman game, the Suicide Squad turn up once more, but this version of Amanda Waller's team is different when it comes to their roster. In the Telltale episode The Enemy Within, we learn that both Bane and Harley are on the team, and in a shocking twist, it's revealed that Catwoman is also part of the Suicide Squad. What? Which Waller is also using to apply pressure to Batman, which is pretty dark if you yourself are playing as the Dark Knight. And of course here, at this part, you are. Catwoman expresses, of course, that she did not join the team willingly and tries to warn Batman, but is shocked by Waller's collar before she can finish her sentence. Oh, and Amanda Waller also seems to want Batman to submit and also join her team. Pretty nuts. Number 3. ARKHAMVERSE. Recently we have gotten another look at the ARKHAMVERSE with the new Suicide Squad game. The Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The new game was confirmed as being part of the established ARKHAMVERSE and features Suicide Squad members Harley Quinn, King Shark, Captain Boomerang, and DEADSHOT taking on one of their darkest missions yet. Amanda Waller has instructed Task Force X this time around to take down the Justice League, which means yeah, somehow this group of misfits is going to have to try and take down heroes like Superman and Wonder Woman. Yikes. Number 2. Assault on Arkham. This animated Batman direct-to-video film, Assault on Arkham, was kind of what I was hoping we'd get when we got the initial Suicide Squad film in terms of plot. This alternate animated version of the team is led by the merciless Amanda Waller, who captures the criminals and forces them to complete missions in order to have years removed from their sentence. They have no say, however, in whether or not they want to be involved, and a skeptical KG Beast even challenges Waller's promise that should they misbehave or deviate from their missions, their heads will be blown off via bombs she had implanted in their necks. No collars this time around. KG Beast learns the hard way that Waller is telling the truth, and after the rest of the team watches KG Beast's head get blown off, they agree to cooperate. Seems like a smart move. Their mission is to break into Arkham and recover a piece of intel. The mission, of course, does get messy as the squad try to break away from Waller's control, and King Shark also ends up getting his head blown off. Number 1. Future's End. The Future's End alternate world is full of alternate versions of some of your favorite characters, and it also happens to include an alternate version of the Suicide Squad as well. They appear in the new Suicide Squad Future's End one-shot, once again reunited and led by Amanda Waller. However, at the beginning of the comic, it's revealed that this version of the Suicide Squad was split up and imprisoned in Bel Rev, before Amanda Waller broke in to reassemble her team. It's also revealed in this one-shot that while imprisoned, her team has been through hell. Harley Quinn has been forcibly given the steroid Venom while imprisoned, turning her into a hulking, muscle-bound version of herself who spends most of her day raging out. They attempted to give Deadshot a gun for an arm, amputating one of his arms and attempting to replace it, which didn't work, and Black Manta had his brain fried after they downloaded Deathstroke's fighting skills into his brain.
Number 10. Deadshot. Also known as Floyd Lawton, Deadshot was kind of done dirty by the Suicide Squad movie. An expert marksman can only really do so much against a demonic witch. A recurring and long-standing member of the Suicide Squad, Deadshot is known for his firearm skills and unmatched accuracy that his name would suggest. He is one of the most feared assassins in the DC universe and has hand-to-hand fighting skills on par with guys like Deathstroke. For a guy without any superpowers, he's a pretty serious threat. He is known for never missing a shot and once worked with Batman to take down the Cobra cult. He is in peak human condition, a weapons expert, and has sweet demolition skills as well, having once killed 28 civilians with a bomb. He is a skilled, self-taught engineer as well. He even built his signature wrist-mounted guns all on his own. Number 9. Deathstroke. With strengths and reflexes that are 10 times that of the average soldier, Deathstroke is definitely a powerful dude. He can use 90% of his brain, making him one of the best tactical strategists in the world. His time with the Suicide Squad was pretty short, as a group of Russians wind up offering him a better deal and he just kinda leaves. He does have a set of skills that has allowed him to beat multiple members of the Justice League in the past. The only contract he's ever failed to complete is one against the Teen Titans. He is commonly considered to be the world's deadliest assassin, and he benefits from a wide range of powers. His abilities include accelerated healing, toxic immunity, and superhuman senses. He also has superhuman strength, speed, and stamina, and can exert himself for hours without tiring, even while wearing heavy body armor. He is also a genius with an eidetic memory and tactical analysis on par with Batman. He once took on 300 opponents at once. Number 8. Poison Ivy. Another long-standing member of the Suicide Squad is Poison Ivy, who seduces men with plant-based abilities and kills them with a single kiss. She is a champion of the green, the energy force behind plant-based life. She has many abilities, including being able to control humans using plant pheromones and mutate plant life, making monstrous creations or giant vines she can use to her advantage. Swamp Thing once said that her powers have a mythical component and her power likely rivals his own, calling her the May Queen, the mother of spring and summer. She is crazy powerful, having once brought an entire tree crashing down on Clayface, and another time brought down a skyscraper with some giant vines. She is a master of seduction and taunts her trapped opponents with their human desires. She can regenerate her limbs and even benefits from decelerated aging. If you're thinking she sounds about perfect right now, I should warn you, she's also mentally unstable. Number 7. El Diablo. The name El Diablo has belonged to other characters in DC's past, but the Suicide Squad Diablo is Chato Santana, a powerful criminal with power over fire. When he uses his full power, he transforms into a demonic form with wings. His powers are based in magic, having received them from Lazarus Lane, the first El Diablo. When transformed, his demonic avatar was powerful enough to take on Incubus, a demon from another dimension. El Diablo has other abilities as well, including being able to travel to hell, and Suicide Squad director Amanda Waller claims El Diablo is one of the most powerful metahumans in the world. Number 6. Harley Quinn. Another powerful member of the Suicide Squad, and a face I'm sure you were expecting to see, Harley Quinn. She has come a long way from being sidekick to the Joker. She's been a partner in crime, a proper villain herself, and at times a vigilante. She has a pull-no-punches approach to combat and questionable sanity, but she was once a criminal psychologist, so she kinda knows what she's on about. Specific kind of crazy. She is immune to most toxins and poisons, and is advanced at hand-to-hand combat, with great skill regarding weapons, skills, and leadership. Watch out for that sanity though. After Joker was skinned alive and killed, she broke into an evidence locker to steal his face, only to kidnap DEADSHOT and make him wear it while she asks questions. She might not be the most physically powerful, but she will definitely mess up your day. Number 5. Killer Frost. She's now just known as Frost, but she used to be a formidable villain and a member of the Suicide Squad. She was a bright young scientist working for Star Labs in the Arctic Circle, working on a self-sustaining thermodynamic ultraconductor engine, basically a perpetual motion machine. But the only perpetual motion happening here is DC perpetuating the same stereotypes, am I right? This icy-hearted femme fatale becomes a vampiric being who craves heat and absorbs it from living beings to sustain herself. For real. Her colleagues are revealed to be secretly working for an organization called Hive, who wants to keep the machine secret to protect their existing investments. They attempt to silence her by placing her inside the working ultraconductor engine, where she panics and rips out some wires connected to the coolant system. Her biological makeup is infused with ice and she becomes Frost. Part of her power is her unique physiology. Rather than being made of ice, her body is actually encased in permafrost, and she generates organic ice-like cells which make up her chemistry. She can spear her opponents with ice shards like a mage from Skyrim and create ice storms powerful enough to kill people. She has a genius level intellect as well, but she will die if she spends too much time chilling. She really starts to feel the heat if she's not absorbing everybody's. I don't know, I tried a lot of different funny puns here about the stealing the heat thing, but none of them really hit. Number 4, Black Orchid. Although many people have taken the mantle of Black Orchid, the original and most connected to the Suicide Squad is Susan Linden Thorne. She developed a love for plant life from her high school sweetheart, a botanist named Philip Sylvain. Her father was abusive, and she ran away as a child, becoming a blackjack dealer and getting into trouble, later returning to Philip, who used his plant-based studies to turn her into a human-plant hybrid named Black Orchid. She brought many criminals to justice, but could never get to Lex Luthor. And when she does, he has her killed. Miraculously, her consciousness flees back to the lab, and this causes a second Orchid body to awaken. Her main ability is her total mastery of disguises, but she is also very powerful outside this. Nearly invulnerable, in fact. She can fly, project force fields, and has superhuman strength, speed, and agility. She does, however, have a weakness against Weed Killer due to her unique physiology. Still more powerful than Poison Ivy. Number 3, Black Adam. The nemesis of Shazam, Black Adam was once a member of the Suicide Squad. He requests the squad's help to help fight against an evil sorceress in Suicide Squad Volume 2 and 3, temporarily joining them. Black Adam was once a candidate to replace the wizard Shazam, but he was unfortunately corrupted by the power. Unlike his nemesis Billy Batson, who has the power of the 7 Greek gods, Adam has the power of 7 Egyptian gods. He is literally an unstoppable powerhouse that not even Superman could defeat by himself. He can use lightning as a weapon and benefits from accelerated healing and a whole host of other powers bestowed upon him by the Egyptian gods. He is set to appear in an upcoming DC film, portrayed by none other than The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Number 2, Parasite. That's right, even Parasite has been a member of the Suicide Squad. In new Suicide Squad number 9, no doubt one of their most powerful members ever, Parasite's ability to absorb powers from the people he touches makes him a threat to even Superman. Not only this, but by absorbing excess energy, Parasite's body mutates and he becomes even stronger. This during a period of time where he was keeping the powers that he absorbed. He also absorbs memories, meaning that he can learn the secret identity of heroes like Superman. It's Parasite's potential for power, depending on who he absorbs from, that lands him so high on our list. Number 1, Enchantress. Enchantress is a magic-powered supervillain contained in a human host named June Moon. Enchantress was originally June's second personality, but it's later established that the Enchantress is a separate entity during the In the Dark storyline. Enchantress has seriously earned her spot as the Suicide Squad's most powerful member. She is fused with an extra-dimensional demonic entity, which led her to developing the Enchantress persona that she switches to by saying her alter ego's name. The Justice League Dark was actually assembled to help take her on, and as of the New 52, Enchantress has become even more powerful, even surpassing Zatanna, who is powerful enough to do basically anything in terms of magic ability. Enchantress once conjured hundreds of clones of herself. She has a crazy collection of powers, including force fields, flight, necromancy, possession, and control of the elements and weather. She can even stop time.